welcome to today's episode of DownStream Outdoors. Today on DownStream Outdoors, we're doing some wild edibles, but it's something a little bit different. We're not doing our typical plants. Today, we're dealing with roe, specifically Steelhead Roe. These are the eggs. These are the unfertilized fish eggs. They came right out of the steelhead itself, and we're going to make a nice edible treat out of these. Okay, what we're actually going to make is an American version of caviar. Caviar is typically made from sturgeons, and they have a much smaller egg. And it can be done with these. It can be done with steelhead. It can be done with salmon, which has an even larger egg. It runs into a texture issue there for a lot of people. So the first things first, you can see we got it in a bag. This here came out of a steelhead that Aaron caught in Erie last week. And if you look, I mean, there's blood, there's everything else in that bag. We need to clean these eggs up before we can do much else. So what we're going to do is I got about a half a quart of water in here. Okay, you need about a pound of salt for every gallon of water. Okay, if you're doing a quart, you still want to get up there around 10-12 ounces. You want a heavy salt brine for this part. Okay, so we're going to load this up with lots of salt. What we're doing here, this here is going to firm up the eggs to make them a little bit easier to handle. It's going to knock a lot of the blood off, any parasites that would have came from the fish, and any flesh from the fish that might be left over. Plus, it's going to knock off the skein. The skein is basically the skin that covers the eggs. We got a nice salty brine there. We're going to just stir it around just a little bit. Nothing crazy. We don't want to bust anything up yet. We just want to make sure our salt's mixed in real well and that our fish roe is getting nicely covered. And we can see one of the skeins. Ultimately, there's a skin over this, and we want to get this skin off, but we need to get our eggs firmed up first. And that's part of what this saltwater mix is doing, is it's going to firm it up real nice and make it a little bit easier to handle. So we're going to let this set about 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, well, our roe now has been soaking for about 5-6 minutes in this nice salty brine that we made. And we're going to take and we're going to clean that up now. Okay, so we've soaked our roe in our saltwater bath here. What we're going to do now is we're going to give it a nice rinse off to get all the extra blood, extra salt, everything off. It's a nice cold water rinse. Right. Now you can see it kind of comes with this here skin on it. This here's what we're actually looking for, is these eggs that are inside the skin. And so we need to get this skin off of here and save as many of the eggs as possible. So that's our next job here, is to work these eggs separate from the skin. Okay, for this part, like I said, all we need is our good butchering board here and just a flat old butter knife. And all we're going to do, we're going to lay our skein out here on the cutting board. We're just going to lay our knife down and just kind of run along that skein there. You see how our eggs are peeling off? Oh yeah, I just peeled a big chunk of that skein off, just right in along that skin. And work that skin loose from that egg sac, from the rest of the eggs. What this here's going to do is this here's going to help us to get the eggs broken up. And you can see this here skein is very stringy, and it's just not going to be a very palatable part, so we don't want any of that skein in our finished product. Alright, at this point we got our roe pretty well separated up here. We got most of the skein out of it, as much as we could anyway. We're going to give her one more rinse here. Finish really breaking that roe up. Alright, for this last part, this is where we finalize our product. Okay, we're going to take our roe and we're going to plop it right back into that bowl that we've been working with here. Now we're just going to add enough water just to kind of float everything. You can see everything down in there is just kind of floated. You know, there's not a whole lot of excess of water in there right now. Alright, to this mixture, salt again. Now, this is sea salt, non-iodized sea salt that we're using for this part. And we're just going to gently swirl that in. Now, at this point, we can add flavoring if we want to add any flavoring to it whatsoever. I myself am going to add flavoring to it. I'm going to add a little bit of this all-natural hickory smoked liquid concentrate. I don't actually have a whole lot left in my jar, so we're probably going to put just about all of it in there. Oh, I can smell that hickory smoke already. That smells real good. We're going to just swirl that around. Now we're going to let this set just like this for about a half an hour. And we'll come back to it and we'll stir it every now and then for this half an hour to make sure we get everything agitated really well, so everything's getting coated. Every part of these eggs, we want to get it coated with that salt and with that flavoring that we added. We want to get everything. We're making sure all our eggs are broken up completely and there's none sticking together, because we want every inch of the egg to be coated. Alright, at this point, this here's been soaking about a half an hour, maybe closer to 45 minutes at this point. My salt, I can feel my salt on the bottom is pretty well dissolved, so that's what we're looking for here. And we've got it good and broken up, and we're just going to give it a good stir here real quick, and we're going to take it back over to our strainer. Alright, back at our strainer here, we're just going to pour the whole mixture right into the strainer, just like that. Alright, now at this point all I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this set in here. You can still see there's some salt granules in here and everything. I'm going to let this set in here for about 10 to 15 minutes, and we're just going to let it drip and drain as much of the water off of it as it wants to. And then we're going to vacuum pack it, and we're going to put it in for storage. Well, folks, that's about it. Like I said, I'm going to vacuum pack that. And, you know, once it's vacuum packed, you can throw it in the fridge. You know, it'll keep 2-3 weeks in the refrigerator. Frozen, it'll last quite a while, especially if you get a good seal with your vacuum pack. Now, what can we do with it? You can eat it just like that if you really want to. I could eat it right now if I wanted to. I'm going to let it set with that little bit of salt on it a little bit longer, though. Just maybe a weird little thing I like. I think the flavor is going to soak in a little bit more that way, too. You can eat it just on toast, just like regular old caviar that way. You could fry it up. You know, ultimately, you know, I remember when I was young, you know, getting the whole sack, the whole skein out of smaller fish like bluegills and sunnies. And my mom frying them up with eggs, like regular chicken eggs in the morning for breakfast. You know, but, you know, that back then that's what we had available, so that's what we were eating. You know, now it's more of a luxury, something I can, you know, play around with and share with other people. Now, whenever I get ready to serve these up, I'll do another video about serving them up and how I prepare them to serve them up. But until then, keep your line wet and out of the trees.